Welcome to Fire by Black Press USA. Today we have Congressman Dwight Evans of Pennsylvania. He represents the 3rd District in Pennsylvania, which includes Northwest and West Philadelphia and parts of North, South, and Center City, Philly. He was first elected in a special election in November 2016. Before that, he served as a state representative for 36 years and earned a reputation as a pragmatic leader who knows how to put public policy above politics and make ideas matter. He made history in 1990 when he became the first African American chairman of the House Appropriations Committee, a position he held for 2 decades. Throughout his public service career, Congressman Evans has worked tirelessly to expand and broaden access to economic and educational opportunities for all in Philadelphia. He currently serves on the Ways and Means Committee and as vice chair of the Small Business Committee. Congressman Evans is also an at-large member of the Executive Committee of the Congressional Black Caucus. Welcome, Congressman Evans.
Thank you very much.
It's always good to see you, and it's good to have you, Black Press USA, in our Fire program.
Thank you.
Let's just jump right in. Obviously, the first thing is the news from yesterday. Senator Kamala Harris was selected as the running mate for Joe Biden. What was your initial reaction?
Excitement, thrill. I believe that she has earned it the old-fashioned way. She was a district attorney general, and U.S. senator, and she has really shown what it takes. She ran for president. Though she didn't make it, she still earned a lot of kudos for the way she went about it. And I believe she will add to the vice president something that we really need. We really need a partnership. And the life experiences that she has had, in my view, will augment the vice president in being president of the United States. We're in some trying times, and we need people who understand particularly what it will take. And so when you think about it, particularly in the African-American community, communities of color, that she will bring to the vice president and to this country a new sense of energy. I had the pleasure of meeting her as a surrogate before I was in the United States Congress in 2012, when she was a surrogate for President Obama. So that's how long I've known her. I met her in Philadelphia. At the time, I was a state legislator, and she was a very what I call enjoyable person. You know how you like that on the side where you have dinner, lunch with somebody. That's how enjoyable she really was.
Yeah, and what does it say about Joe Biden? There's a lot was said. There's members in his own camp apparently steering him away a little bit from Kamala Harris because of what happened during the debates. But he was able to overlook that. What does it say about Vice President Biden?
Well, Joe Biden is somebody who has been around. He's not new at this game. He was in the United States Senate. He was chairman of a couple of committees. He understands the rough and tumble aspect of politics. You have some debates. She was trying to win like he won. So the fact of the matter is that's all in the process. To me, that's more media discussion than it is for people. People are more interested in dealing with issues about jobs, safety, public health, health disparities, the challenges that we have. And with a pandemic and what we face, that was all inside baseball. So I personally, and I was for Vice President Biden on day one, being from Pennsylvania. So my sense is he's very secure, and he doesn't allow things such as that to get in the way. So I never paid much attention to that. I looked at it as all part of inside baseball.
And Congressman, you talk about the challenges that we currently face, the world currently face with the pandemic, but and here in the United States, Speaker Pelosi has been leading the negotiations that have now stalled with the HEROES Act with the Republicans. Can you talk about that, Congressman, and where we are right now with these negotiations? Have you gotten any feedback from the Speaker or Leader Schumer on where things currently stand?
Well, let me say this. Leader Pelosi is a master at leading not just this Democratic caucus, but leading this country. You know, she didn't go into think about this lightly. With the CARES Act, which we passed back in March, that was the first investment. And there's such great need. And that was like $2.2 trillion. It was over 96 members in the House that voted for it. The second part was the HEROES Act. She knew then that there would be a need for another relief package. Now, the HEROES Act sat over in the Senate for over 2 months, 2+ months. And in my view, the Senate Republicans under Mitch McConnell didn't take it serious. So we are where we are now when the people of this country are having the challenging times that they're having. Over 160,000 people have died. You look at the unemployment number, you look at the impact, particularly by communities of color. And it's clear to me that she had the foresight to understand that this would take a unique kind of leadership and someone who really understood. So I was glad to be a part and to contribute in the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, being on the Ways and Means Committee. We dealt with a lot of those particular areas. You talk about the stimulus, you talk about the unemployment, you talk about the tax credits related to all those issues that we contribute a great deal to. So right now, where things are, which is unfortunate, the Republicans are somewhat split. You have the President of the United States, you have Mitch McConnell, and then you have some Republicans that don't want to do anything at all. And at this particular point, the Democrats want to be back at the table, and the Speaker has offered where we talked about $3 trillion, they talked about $1 trillion. So somewhere between that trillion and $3 trillion, the Speaker has offered to reduce $1 trillion off the table, put another, take it up to another $1 trillion, but still maintain the values about housing equity, the values about testing, tracing, and treatment. Understand those are significant. And particularly when you start talking about the African American community, you talk about communities that really are faced with a very difficult situation. And then if you put poverty in there, poverty and the pandemic together have been devastating to this country and particularly communities of color. So it is her leadership, in my view, that basically is leading us to a point to get this done. And at the end of the day, I believe that the president and them, they will come to the conclusion that if they're really for the people, they should step up. I'm strongly for the HEROES Act, implementation of that. We need to have that $600 or unemployment is something not to play with. There's a lot of pain out here. When you think about this, like almost 100, and there's 300 million Americans in this country. It's like 143 that are in the poverty category. So this is something you can't take lightly. This is something where you need adult leadership, someone who has the ability to bring people together. And so my view is at some point, maybe the president, maybe the Republicans, they will come to their senses and ask themselves, who interests are they working in? Are they really in the interest of people of this country, or they just want to be politics as usual? I want to keep that in mind. You know, for example, in my area, there's a group of Black doctors along with religious leaders who have come together and who are out testing, you know, the importance and, you know, testing, tracing, and treatment. And you know, we're talking about school reopenings, which is also a part of the HEROES Act. So the HEROES Act for school reopening. But especially, you know, I encourage people to wear their masks, take this serious, you know, show that kind of leadership between the mask, 6 feet. I mean, I think in all communities, we have to take this serious and not take this lightly, And I believe that the speaker understands the seriousness of it, to listen to what the scientists say, listen to what the doctors say. You know, I always used to say, that's what my mom and grandmother used to always say to me about listen. You know, it starts off with listening, and then when you listen, you work together to try to find some ways to get some things done. You know, look, this is a great country. We are great, great, great things. But the fact of the matter is, unless you get leadership that is willing to work together, is the only way we're going to offer some solutions to the challenges that we have.
Yeah, and two things are going on simultaneously right now, Congressman. You have the census. In that situation, you also have the slowing of the mail and the post office situation. Can you speak to both of them? We know how important the census is, but what's going to happen when this count stops and millions are not counted? And also with the mail, we know that has a lot of impact on mail-in voting.
Well, the census is extremely important. Every 10 years, written in the Constitution of the United States. It is a tool that was established way before any of us, and it's something that we should not take lightly, in my view. So it starts with that. I encourage people to do census. It's worth funding. It's worth $21,000 on housing, on transportation, things of that nature. It takes less than 5 minutes to fill out the census. I believe that the administration, again, is playing politics with something that is in our Constitution. You're talking about in the city of Philadelphia, where it all started. And obviously the census is extremely important. The post office, the first postmaster was Benjamin Franklin, again, right in Philadelphia. That's something extremely. The post office, a lot of men and women, African Americans, moved up in the middle class in terms of the significance of the post office. So there's an awful lot of value to the post office. People get their prescription drugs come through the mail. So it's not a game. I believe that this president is, as usual, playing politics with it. When you think about it, you know, he says on one hand, it's all right in Florida that you can turn around and use vote by mail, but yet other states he's being suspect of. You know, in Pennsylvania, the governor and Republican legislature passed a vote by mail bill. We should not have to have people making choices between their health and participating in election security. You know, my hero, John Lewis, and he was my hero because when I was a kid growing up, I recall seeing John Lewis on CBS News when I was 10 years old. And he was walking across the Pettit Bridge. I didn't know one day that I would serve with him as well as be on the Ways and Means Committee with him. That was truly an honor. He influenced me tremendously, and I used to tell him that. So I said to him what he used to always say, let's go get in some good trouble. And he was relentless in terms of not being deterred. Well, I have that same kind of spirit. The Congressional Black Caucus has that kind of same spirit because we can be a real true check and balance. And in my view, it is through John Lewis' spirit that we all are influenced. I mean, he is truly one of the first patriots. When you think about 1963, and you think about the Big Six, and then in 1971, the Congressional Black Caucus came together. I mention those things because that's significant. He was Black Lives Matter before there was a Black Lives Matter. So when you understand the significance of that message, you carry on to where we are today. And I think it's important to understand we will win this. It will be a fight. It will be a fight. But you can't be in it. This is not for the faint-hearted. And I believe just like Senator Harris, being the first African-American female being on a major party, reminds me of days of Shirley Chisholm when she ran for president in 1968 and got elected, Barbara Jordan. All of those we built on their shoulders. So yes, it's a little fight and a little trouble, and people raise some concerns about what we're going through, but we will be all right. and I'm saying to you, maybe the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, the Congressional Black Caucus up to 55 members today. It was 17 when it started in 1971. So I share with you that for where we are today, and I know it looks difficult, and we're in the midst of a recession/depression. You look at the unemployment numbers, you look at the food insecurity, you look at the homelessness, and all of these kinds of indicators. But the fact of the matter is, we're going to be here. We're going to keep fighting this fight. And these are not just words out of my mouth that I'm expressing to you. These are things that I truly believe that this too we will ultimately defeat.
Yeah, we're talking with Congressman Dwight Evans of Philadelphia, state of Pennsylvania, of course. There was a report, Congressman, just today by the New York Times that Jared Kushner had been meeting secretly with Kanye West. It appears that the Republican strategy is to divide, or at least try to divide the Black vote by either promoting a third-party candidate or through other means like suppression. What is the Democratic strategy to get Blacks to the polls?
You know, this same occupant of the White House in my district said, "What the hell do Black people have to lose?" He said that in August of 2016. That's what he said. Black people are a sophisticated group of people. They don't go for what I call the okie doke. They're truly where they only have to look at his record. They have to look at, his record in terms of the statements he have made about African countries. His statements in terms of, if you look at his administration, is not really reflected. Look at his administration. Look at his judges' appointments. So look at his federal appointments. Look at his administration. Look at his policy. Look at his attempt to attack Obamacare. In terms of what it means. How can you have a person that tries to attack healthcare today? Healthcare should be a right. It is not something we should play with. So I think, and I can tell you from the district I'm from, in the sense that I have that sense around the rest of the nation, but I can tell you that African Americans are very clear. In terms of the Democrats, we are not taking it for granted neither. We are going after the African American vote as we go after any constituent votes. We are going to make the case. I'm one of 18 congressmen in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I think you'll look on election day, you'll see some fantastic turnouts. What I see, people are fired up. They are very much determined. They're not taking it for granted like in 2016. And Pennsylvania is a very key state. We had not lost Pennsylvania from 1988 up until 2016. It had generally gone Democratic. But we're taking all communities. We're including all communities, all 67 counties. There's about 10 or 15% African Americans in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So I share with you that when you say what the Democrats are doing, Tom Perez, Vice President Biden, I don't think it's an accident why he said, his home base would be Philadelphia. I don't think it's an accident when you think about it that he has, at my congressional district, he's been probably more my congressional district more than, since the campaign really started after he won out of South Carolina. I joke with Whip Jim Clyburn that, we know about South Carolina, but there's also Philadelphia. And I say that to him because there's a lot of people who are from South Carolina, moved to Philadelphia, and vice versa. So I think what you're saying is we got a good team with Biden and Harris. Democrats are more organized than I've ever seen in my political career, and I've been very close to it a long time. Jill Biden's roots are in the Philadelphia area. Pennsylvania is very, very key to that 270. I don't think it's an accident that you are seeing the occupant of the White House. He might as well move to Pennsylvania. He's been there, him and Pence, a lot. But I think as I said to you, the people are a lot more sophisticated than the way that he portrays them as not being in touch or connected. So as a Democratic Party, you know, as Vice President Biden talks about the soul of America, that's the aspect that he understands that that's what we need today. So he's not taking that for granted. And I think it's important to recognize that is something we're going to keep pushing.
Yeah, and one of our viewers, Jack Coyle, who I happen to know Jack. Jack says West Philly is his old neighborhood, but he says the GOP is he says the GOP is weaponizing mental illness. He says it's shameless and cruel. Your thoughts on that, Congressman?
Well, you know, Jack, I know West Philly very good. My grandmother used to live there. My grandfather used to live there. And West Philly is a very good section of the city of Philadelphia. I think you're right. They're attempting to weaponize it by not having the necessary equipment, by not having a national testing program, by not having tracing, and making he kind of plays a game with the aspect of health. But I'm saying to you, when I travel, people are a lot smarter. They're wearing their masks. They're doing the kinds of things that they know they need to do to protect themselves. And they know that this occupant of the White House doesn't care too much about inner cities or Black people. They're very clear about that. They're not shocked about that. I mean, he's never been no big fan of cities in general. It's ironic that he was in a city to understand the importance of what cities mean to the entire United States of America. So, like Jack knows in West Philadelphia, those people are self-reliant. They take care of themselves, and I work with them closely. We try to do things that are here. So we try to have as a priority about the census, about voting, about educating. We try to educate people to empower them to do the things that are important. And entrepreneurship, I'm vice chair of the Small Business Committee, and that's been a real focus because unless you address the question of creating wealth, which is very important, creating the opportunities. If you create the businesses, you put the wealth, you put the money in people's pocket, and then you give them a chance. And creating small businesses, there's a place he may know, Hakeem Bookstore, if he knows that name, was in West Philly. There is the daughter has it now, been around for 50 years, and Hakeem Bookstore is very significant and a place to be recognized.
Yeah, and Congressman, what message do you have for your constituents, and how are you working for them during this current crisis?
Well, since none of us been around on Earth when the first pandemic hit us over 100 years ago, I think that it's very clear to me that we have to work together. And I don't say that lightly. I mean, we will ultimately get through this. And we have to, may it be a federal government, state government, local government, the importance of working together. We need our churches, and our churches are extremely significant to us. We need what I call house to house, block to block. We need to, find ways to navigate ourselves through this. As I say, the census is very important. That's worth 21,000. Registering the vote, voting by mail is very important. Entrepreneurship with our Black businesses, we got to keep building those up. So these are all the things we got to do. But mainly, look, this occupant may not have created the pandemic, but he certainly is not doing a good job in terms of addressing the issues. We did the stimulus checks, we did with the unemployment, we did all those things. So we have an obligation. The chairman of the Federal Reserve said something that has registered in my mind this entire issue. He said, go big and go bold. Go big and go bold. That's right down my alley. That's the CARES Act, that's the HEROES Act. I'm right down there. We go big and go bold. We haven't had anything like this, well, except for when you had in Europe the Marshall Plan. Well, the CARES Act, the HEROES Act, our own version. We should have, it's unfortunate had the pandemic to address some of the challenges that we have, but this is serious. There needs to be a transformation. And Black lives do matter. That's a fact and a reality. I've been on this earth a long time, and The fact of the matter is understanding the significance of that statement. As I said to you, John Lewis was Black Lives Matter. He understood that. Him, Dr. King, Malcolm X, all of them, they understood. We built on the shoulders of them. So we sit today in a position where, as John Lewis used to always say, he said, if you don't think things have changed, walk in my shoes. And you go from where John Lewis took his effort to where we are today. I'll be the first one to say to you that there, still a lot of work to do on the policing reform issue, which we passed. I think Chairwoman Karen Bass, who's chair of the Congressional Black Caucus, on the police reform issue that she led the charge on, and all members of the caucus voted for it. So I share with you that it is important to understand that this is a long-term struggle, as my hero Frederick Douglass talked about. Power concedes nothing without a struggle, and that's what we are in. We need to recognize, and for the sake of our young people, because I applaud the young people who've been out there on the streets every single day, and I give them credit for what they're doing. So it's not like they're not being heard. It's not like we're not seeing what they're doing, and we're applauding what they do, but we need to do it together. We got to work together, and I think that's important.
Yeah, and we always encourage comments from those watching. David Youngblood says BlackRock manages about 90% of taxpayers' money. What are you doing to ensure minority money managers get access to those trillions of dollars?
It's interesting. I used to be on the pension fund when I was in the state legislature. And that was a priority because you raise a very comes down to being vigilant. When I was on the pension fund in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that's the 5th largest state in the nation. My job was to ask those right questions to ensure that is there diversity and inclusiveness in this. Where are the Black people, right? That's what you got to ask. That's a job. I don't mind being held accountable. That's why I'm supposed to be held accountable. And the fact of the matter, so you asked the right question. Those are questions all across the state. I had the pleasure, and this a long time ago. You hear me always bring up a lot of history, but I had the pleasure of going to South Africa when President Mandela had just become president. And it was about 16 pension funds that was invited, and I was one of the people as a trustee invited to South Africa. And I was invited there on the purpose of how could we make strategic investments in terms of influence what takes place. So I agree with the person who asked that question. Is there more we need to do? Yes. I'll be the first one to say that. I don't want anybody to think that I think things are where they need to be. I'm never think there's an awful lot of work to be done. I make no excuses. I'm a no excuse person. I get to the bottom line. This is what we got to do. Do we have more work to do? Yes. But I can share with you that I know there's been progress. It probably has moved, not as moved as fast as either I or others would like it to move, but I share with you that if you look at the Congressional Black Caucus from where it is to 1971, the change in the people, the dynamics of the group of people who are there, I think that you couldn't find, in my view, a finer group of people. And I know them all. They've been around. They ain't been around that long. Some ain't been around that long, but they are. As you see, there was a number of them that the vice president was considering for vice president. You think about that. Val Demings, Karen Bass, Senator Harris, and Senator How you think about that. So a vice president of the United States picked one of the Congressional Black Caucus, and the gentleman who was president, President Barack Obama, was a member of the Congressional Black Caucus. So you understand the significance of that. The Congressional Black Caucus will be 50 years old next year. So if you look at and understand from 1963, from when John Lewis stood around that table with the other 6, and 71, and we are in 2020, and you look at, do we have more policy outcomes to change? Yes. It's too much poverty. It's too much violence, particularly in our community. But we got to keep working together in order to address these issues.
And last question before we let you go, Congressman, it's a pleasure having you. What would a Biden administration look like? What would it do for this country? And to borrow a question again from David Youngblood, would you support a Black Secretary of the Treasury?
Yes, that's a significant. Now that no one never asked me that question. That they asked that. No one never asked me that. I mean, he'll ask about other things. You know, he has committed to a Supreme Court justice, but a black Treasury. We had in Pennsylvania on a temporary basis. I had something to do with it. We had a black treasurer for a couple of years. Do you know what a black treasurer can do? If that person know what to do, Treasurer of the United States of America, yes, absolutely.
That's a resounding yes.
If you want to talk about changing some dynamics, you want to talk about change. I sit on Ways and Means. I sit on the Health Committee, and I sit on the Working Families. If you want to talk about changing that dynamic, that is something, a Secretary of Treasury, that is something that could change the dynamic. That is under the jurisdiction of the Ways and Means Committee.
Okay.
So I honestly like it.
Well, Congressman Dwight Evans, we really appreciate you taking out the time this afternoon. We've lost your picture again, but we are grateful for the time we had with you. Everybody, thanks for watching. Stay well and stay safe.
Thank you.